Amara sat quietly at the far corner of the big, beautiful wedding hall. The place was full of laughter, bright colors, and loud music. Guests danced, clapped, and cheered as food and drinks flowed freely. Everyone looked happy. Everyone except Amara. Her dress was simple and old, one she had worn to several occasions before. It didn't sparkle like the others, but she wore it with quiet pride. Her face looked tired, yet calm. She didn't belong to this crowd of fancy people, and deep down she knew it. At the center of the hall stood her younger sister, Chika, the bride. Chika glowed with beauty and confidence, her laughter ringing above the music. People surrounded her, taking pictures and showering her with praises. Amara watched from afar, her heart heavy but steady. She remembered the years she had worked to put Chika through school. The late nights, the small jobs, the sacrifices. She had done everything a big sister could do. But now, it seemed none of that mattered. When the waiters began serving food, Amara waited patiently. One by one, the tables were served, except hers. By the time the waiter finally reached her, only scraps were left, cold rice, bits of chicken bones, and a small bottle of water. Amara smiled faintly and whispered, "Thank you." The waiter didn't even respond. He just walked away. Around her, guests exchanged glances and laughed softly, pretending not to notice her plate. Even her mother, sitting 2 tables away, looked everywhere except in Amara's direction. Amara swallowed her pride. She had promised herself she wouldn't cry. Not today. Suddenly, the music stopped. The groom, Toby, stood up with a microphone in hand. He was tall, confident, and neatly dressed. His voice was calm, full of control. Everyone turned to listen as he lifted his glass. "I want to make a toast," he began with a smile. "To my beautiful wife, Chika, and to all our friends and family here today." Applause filled the air. Chika beamed proudly, holding his arm. But then, Toby paused. His eyes wandered across the hall until they stopped at Amara's corner. "Before I continue," he said slowly, "I want everyone here to know, this woman sitting over there isn't just anyone. She's my boss." The entire hall went silent. You could hear a pin drop. Cameras stopped recording. Chika's smile froze on her face. Amara's spoon slipped from her hand. She stared at Toby, speechless. The guests turned, whispering among themselves. Some looked confused, others shocked. Toby's words hung heavy in the air. And in that single moment, everything changed. She's a hardworking manager at a small tech startup, focused, modest, and disciplined. Every morning, Amara wakes up before dawn in her small 1-bedroom apartment. She makes a cup of tea, checks her emails, and prepares for another long day at work. Her life is simple, quiet, and full of routine. Her colleagues admire her for her calm strength. She never raises her voice, never complains, and always gets things done. Her boss trusts her completely, and the younger employees look up to her for advice. But behind her strong face lies a woman who has sacrificed more than most people know. Years ago, Amara had a chance to go to university. She had passed all her exams and even got admission into a good school. But then her father died suddenly, and everything changed. Their mother, heartbroken and struggling, could only afford to send one child to school. Amara didn't hesitate. She gave up her admission so that her younger sister, Chika, could go instead. "She's brighter, more beautiful. She'll make us proud," their mother had said. Amara smiled and agreed. From that moment, she worked small jobs to pay Chika's school fees, skipping meals sometimes so her sister would never lack anything. When Chika graduated, she became the center of attention. Their mother often called her the smart one and the beautiful one. Amara was proud of her, but each time she heard those words, a small ache grew inside her heart. She had done everything for her family, yet she was treated like a shadow. "Amara, when will you marry?" her mother would often say, shaking her head. "You're too serious. That's why men don't come near you." Amara would just smile and reply softly, "I'm happy the way I am." But inside, the words hurt. She didn't crave luxury or fame, just respect and peace. Her apartment was old but tidy, filled with books, work files, and small memories of her late father. On quiet nights, she would sit by the window, thinking about her life, the dreams she had given up and the love she never found. Still, she never complained. She believed hard work would one day speak for her. Then one day, a new employee joined her company, Toby. He was young, ambitious, and polite. Amara first met him during an interview. He was nervous but honest, and something about his determination impressed her. She hired him as a junior developer, not knowing that decision would one day change her life. At work, Toby respected Amara deeply. He often stayed back to learn from her, asking questions and taking notes as she guided him. He admired her intelligence, her calmness, and the way she carried herself. Most people found Amara distant, but Toby saw something different, strength and kindness hidden behind her quiet nature. They began to build a good working relationship. Amara would review his projects, give him feedback, and sometimes share stories about the challenges she faced in her career. Toby, in return, worked hard to prove himself. Within months, he became one of the best in his team. Sometimes, after meetings, they would talk about life. Toby once told her, "You're the kind of leader people never forget." Amara smiled, not realizing how much those words meant coming from him. She didn't know he saw her as more than just a boss. He genuinely admired her as a person. Outside of work, however, Amara's family life remained cold. Her mother still compared her to Chica. "Your sister is doing well," she'd say proudly during phone calls. "Her boyfriend might propose soon. You should learn from her." Amara would simply reply, "I'm happy for her." And she meant it, or at least she tried to. She had no idea that the man her mother spoke about, the one who was making Chica so happy, was the same man who worked under her every day, Toby. Fate was already weaving a cruel surprise, but Amara was blind to it. To her, Toby was just a bright young man with a promising future. She was proud of his progress and happy to mentor him. When he thanked her after receiving his first promotion, she only said, "Work hard, Toby. Stay honest and you'll go far." Toby smiled, touched by her sincerity. But inside he carried a heavy secret, one he didn't know how to reveal. The woman he was engaged to marry, the one he thought he loved, was Amara's own sister. Amara went about her days unaware of the storm quietly forming around her. She believed life was finally beginning to reward her efforts. Little did she know that the two people she trusted most, her sister and her protégé, were about to test her strength in ways she had never imagined. One afternoon, Amara decided to stop by a small restaurant near her office to get a quiet lunch. She had been working since morning and needed a short break. The place was cozy and not too crowded, just how she liked it. She picked a seat by the window and opened her laptop, planning to eat while finishing some reports. A few minutes later, she heard a familiar laugh. It was bright and loud, a voice she had known her whole life. Slowly she looked up. Her heart skipped a beat. Sitting a few tables away was her younger sister, Chica. But it wasn't just her. Sitting right beside her, holding her hand and smiling nervously, was Toby. For a moment, Amara thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. But no, it was real. Toby looked exactly the same face she saw every day at work. The same man who had told her just last week how much he respected her. And now he was there with her sister. Her hands trembled slightly. She wanted to look away, but couldn't. Toby's eyes met hers. His face immediately changed, from happy to guilty. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Chica turned around slowly and smiled, her tone sharp as a knife. "Small world, isn't it?" she said, tilting her head. Amara could barely speak. "You two know each other?" she asked quietly. Toby lowered his eyes, saying nothing. Chica, still smiling, reached for his hand. "Yes, we do. We're engaged," she said proudly, flashing her ring. The room suddenly felt smaller. Amara's chest tightened. She stood up quickly, whispering, "Excuse me," and walked out. Outside, she stood by the roadside, breathing heavily. Her mind spun in circles. Toby, her mentee, the man she trusted and respected, was engaged to her sister. And no one had told her. That evening, Amara returned home, hoping her mother would be shocked and understand her pain. But when she told her what happened, her mother only sighed and said, "Amara, don't make trouble. You're older. Let your sister have her happiness." Amara stared at her, speechless. "But Mama, she knew I work with him. She hid it from me." Her mother waved her hand dismissively. "Please don't ruin things. Chica finally found a good man. You should be happy for her. You're too serious, always thinking life is fair. Sometimes you just have to accept things." Tears filled Amara's eyes, but she didn't argue. She simply nodded and went to her room. That night, She cried quietly into her pillow, not out of anger but deep heartbreak. The pain wasn't just about Toby, it was about everything. The years she sacrificed for her family, the love she never received, and the way she was always made to feel small. In the days that followed, Amara tried to stay away from the wedding plans. She kept herself busy with work, coming home late, avoiding discussions. But Chica would call her often, her voice playful yet mocking. "You must come to my wedding," she said one evening. "Your family, even if you can't keep a man." Then she laughed and hung up. Amara sat there frozen. The words echoed in her head. Even after everything she had done for her sister, this was what she got: mockery. On the wedding day, Amara arrived quietly. She wore her old dress, kept her hair simple, and carried a small bag. She didn't want to draw attention. But as soon as she entered the hall, she could feel the whispers. Some guests looked at her curiously, others with pity. Her mother hurried over, whispering sharply, "Don't embarrass us. Just sit, eat, and smile. Do you hear me?" Amara nodded, forcing a small smile. She found her seat, far from the family table, near the caterers. She could smell the food being served, hear the laughter and music, but she felt invisible. From her seat, she watched her sister, radiant, surrounded by people who adored her. Chica looked like she had everything Amara never did. And beside her stood Toby, handsome, confident, pretending not to notice the woman who had once guided him toward success. Amara took a deep breath and told herself to endure it. She didn't know that this painful moment was just the beginning, that before the day ended, the truth would come out in a way no one expected. Amara sits through the ceremony, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The air is filled with music, laughter, and the sweet scent of flowers. Everyone looks so happy. The bride and groom stand at the front, smiling brightly as the pastor reads the vows. Chica's voice is loud and full of confidence as she repeats her promises to Toby. "I promise to love and honor you," she says, her smile wide and proud. The crowd claps and cheers. Amara forces a small smile, but her eyes sting with tears. Not tears of joy, but of disbelief and quiet pain. She remembers when Chica was still in school, crying over failed exams, and she would stay up all night to help her study. She remembers when she worked extra hours to pay her sister's tuition, while she herself went hungry. Now that same sister was marrying the man Amara had mentored, pretending as if she didn't exist. Every speech feels like a knife. Chica's friends take turns praising her. Chica has always been such an inspiration. One bridesmaid says loudly, "She's smart, beautiful, and now she's married into success." The guests laugh and clap. Amara lowers her head. She feels invisible, like a stranger among her own people. No one mentions her name or the sacrifices she made. The servers pass her table last again, leaving her with cold food. She doesn't complain. She just sits quietly, holding her glass of water. Toby never once looks at her. Not even a quick glance. He laughs when others laugh, but his smile doesn't reach his eyes. Amara can see the tension in his shoulders, but she keeps her distance. The whispers continue. "Isn't that the older sister?" Someone murmurs behind her. "She looks so serious. No wonder she's still single." Another voice chuckles. "She should be happy for them, not sitting alone like that." Amara's heart aches. She tells herself to breathe, to stay calm. She doesn't want to cry in public. She looks toward her mother, hoping for a smile, but her mother only nods stiffly and looks away. Then the time comes for the groom's speech. The hall quiets down as Toby stands up, holding the microphone. His expression is calm, but his hand shakes slightly. He begins with a smile. "First, I want to thank everyone here for coming to celebrate our special day." His voice is clear, confident, but there's a small tremor that only a few notice. "I want to thank my wife, Chica, for her love and support." Chica beams proudly, holding his hand. The crowd claps. Toby continues. "But before I go on, I need to say something important, something from my heart." The hall falls silent. His eyes move slowly across the room, and then they stop, on Amara. Amara freezes. She doesn't move, doesn't blink. "Before I met Chica," Toby says softly, "I met someone who changed my life. Someone who believed in me when I had nothing. Who guided me when no one else did. Without her, I wouldn't be the man standing here today." Murmurs ripple through the crowd. Chica's smile falters. Toby's voice trembles now. That person is sitting right there. He lifts his hand slightly and points in Amara's direction. My boss, Amara. The hall goes quiet. All eyes turn toward her. Amara feels her heart pounding in her chest. She doesn't know whether to look up or hide her face. Chica's expression hardens. She forces a smile, but her eyes flash with anger. The guests whisper among themselves. Wait, his boss? That's the sister, isn't it? What does he mean by that? Toby continues, his voice filled with emotion. When I first joined her company, I was just a struggling intern. I didn't have money or confidence. But she trained me, believed in me, and showed me what true leadership means. She never asked for anything in return. She just wanted me to succeed. The guests exchange surprised looks. Some begin to nod, impressed. Amara's throat tightens. Tears fill her eyes, but this time, they are not tears of pain. They are tears of relief. Someone finally saw her. Someone finally spoke her truth out loud. Toby looks directly at her again. Ma, thank you for everything. I owe my success to your guidance and patience. Chica shifts uncomfortably, her smile gone. She whispers something to her maid of honor, who looks equally shocked. Her friends begin to murmur, unsure how to react. The tension in the room grows thick. The photographers lower their cameras. Even the band members glance at each other, unsure whether to play or stay silent. Amara's mother hides her face in her hand, clearly embarrassed. She had never expected this kind of attention for the daughter she had overlooked. Toby lowers the microphone and takes a deep breath. I wouldn't be standing here if not for her, he says softly. I just wanted everyone to know that before we continue this celebration. For a long moment, no one claps. The silence is heavy and full of meaning. Then slowly one guest begins to applaud, followed by another, and then the whole hall joins in. Amara sits still, her tears quietly rolling down her cheeks. She doesn't smile, but there's a soft glow in her eyes. After years of being ignored and belittled, someone had finally spoken the truth. Across the room, Chica sits stiffly, her hands clenched. The celebration that once felt like her victory now feels like a storm about to break. Toby reveals he was once a broke intern when Amara gave him a chance. His voice shakes slightly as he speaks into the microphone. When I first joined the company, I had nothing, he says softly. No money, no experience, no confidence. I was just a scared young man looking for a chance. Everyone in the hall listens closely. The noise and laughter from earlier are gone. Only Toby's voice fills the room. He glances at Amara again, his eyes full of respect. Amara saw something in me when no one else did. She didn't look at where I came from or how poor I was. She looked at what I could become. She taught me everything: leadership, confidence, and vision. She believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself. The guests begin to murmur softly. Some nod, others whisper to each other. Is that true? He's talking about his boss? Toby continues, his voice trembling with emotion. What many of you don't know is that Amara is not just my boss. She's the co-founder of the tech startup I now run. When I applied for business funding and almost lost everything, it was her mentorship and advice that saved my career. The hall gasps. A few people cover their mouths in surprise. Chica's bright smile slowly fades. Her face turns pale, and her hands tighten around her bouquet. Toby goes on. She gave me my first real opportunity in life. She taught me to stand tall, to work hard, and to treat people with kindness. Every success I have today, every project, every achievement, carries her touch somewhere in it. Chica's friends begin whispering among themselves. Wait, did he say Amara owns the company? One asks. You mean the bride's sister? Yes, another replies quietly. So she's his boss? Oh my God. All eyes turn to Amara. She sits frozen, unsure what to do. She had never wanted attention. Her heart beats fast, and she wishes she could disappear. Toby looks down for a moment, then lifts his head again. His next words come slowly, as if he's choosing each one carefully. I didn't even know she was Chica's sister until months later, he says, his voice full of regret. When I found out, I was shocked. I didn't know how to tell her. I was afraid of hurting both of them. The crowd murmurs louder. Some guests exchange shocked looks. A few shake their heads. The air feels heavy, like the truth has suddenly made it hard to breathe. Chica tries to smile again, but it looks forced. She glances at her mother for help, but her mother just lowers her head, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Toby takes a deep breath and looks toward Amara once more. "Boss," he says softly. "Thank you for believing in me when no one else did." Then, to everyone's surprise, he steps down from the stage and walks across the hall, straight toward Amara. The room goes completely silent. Every camera turns, every eye follows him. Amara's heart races. She doesn't move. When Toby reaches her, he bends slightly, almost like a kneel, and says again, this time louder, "Thank you, Ma. Everything I am today started with you." The hall erupts. Some guests clap loudly, others cheer. A few people even stand up. But not everyone is smiling. Chica stands frozen, her eyes wide with disbelief and humiliation. Her friends whisper around her. So her sister helped her husband become rich? One says quietly, "This is unbelievable." Chica suddenly turns away, tears filling her eyes. She drops her bouquet and rushes out of the hall. The photographers quickly lower their cameras, unsure whether to follow her or not. Toby remains in front of Amara, still bowing slightly. Amara slowly stands up, her hands trembling. "Please stand," she whispers, her voice barely audible. He straightens himself, looking guilty but grateful. "You deserve this recognition," he says softly. Amara forces a small smile. "I didn't do it for thanks," she replies gently. "I just wanted you to succeed." The guests watch in silence. Even those who had once ignored Amara now look at her with newfound respect. Across the room, their mother sits quietly, her face full of shame. She wipes her eyes with her handkerchief, realizing how wrong she had been all these years, how she had praised one daughter while ignoring the other who had carried the family's burden. The music band, unsure what to do, begins to play a soft tune. The tension in the hall is thick, but something powerful has shifted. For the first time, everyone sees Amara for who she truly is, strong, selfless, and deserving of respect. Toby returns to the stage, trying to continue his speech, but his voice breaks halfway through. The guests clap again, this time not for the bride or the groom, but for the woman who sat quietly at the corner, the woman whose strength had changed so many lives. Amara sits down slowly, her heart heavy but calm. She doesn't gloat, she doesn't smile widely. She simply wipes her tears and looks straight ahead. For years she had been invisible. But today, the truth had finally spoken. Loudly, clearly, and beautifully. After the ceremony, guests surround Amara with admiration. Some want to shake her hand, others just want to say thank you. They praise her kindness, her humility, and her strength. People who had ignored her earlier now look at her with deep respect. Amara smiles politely at everyone. She doesn't brag or speak proudly. Her voice stays calm and soft as she says, "I only did what love and duty demanded." Toby stands nearby, quietly watching, still full of gratitude. The event slowly comes to an end, and people begin to leave. Chica is nowhere to be seen. Her mother stays seated, looking lost and embarrassed. A few minutes later, Amara steps outside the hall to get some air. The evening breeze is cool, and she feels the weight of everything that just happened. Then she hears someone call her name. She turns and sees Chica walking toward her, her makeup smudged, eyes red from crying. "Why did you do that?" Chica snaps, her voice shaking. "You always wanted to outshine me, didn't you? You couldn't just let me have my moment." Amara stares at her for a long moment, then answers calmly, "Chica, I never wanted to outshine you. I only wanted you to succeed. But you mistook my silence for weakness." Chica bites her lip, unable to respond. Tears run down her cheeks. "Everyone is laughing at me now," she whispers bitterly. "No one is laughing," Amara replies gently. "They just finally saw the truth. I never tried to take anything from you. I just wanted peace in this family." Chica lowers her head, too ashamed to look at her sister. For the first time, she feels the sting of guilt, the weight of how unfairly she and their mother had treated Amara. Their mother soon joins them outside. Her voice trembles as she says, "Amara, my daughter. I'm sorry. I see now how wrong I've been. I should have appreciated you more. I let my pride and blindness guide me." Amara looks at her mother, the woman she had worked so hard to please. There is pain in her eyes but also calm acceptance. "It's all right, Mama," she says softly. "I forgave you long ago. I just needed to stop expecting you to change." Her mother nods slowly, tears falling from her eyes. The three women stand there quietly for a few minutes. No more shouting, no more bitterness, just silence and the slow healing that follows truth. In the days after the wedding, Amara returns to her normal life. People at work treat her with even greater respect. Toby works harder than ever, showing true professionalism. One morning, Amara calls him into her office. "You've done well, Toby," she says. "You've grown as a leader. I think it's time you take on more responsibility." Toby looks surprised. "Are you promoting me?" Amara nods. "Yes. You've earned it. But remember, this is strictly professional. Let's leave the past where it belongs." He smiles humbly and says, "Thank you, Ma. I'll make you proud." Amara smiles back. "You already have." That evening, after work, Amara finally does something she hasn't done in years. She books a vacation. No laptop, no meetings, no stress. Just peace. She chooses a quiet beach far from the city, a place where she can rest and think. A week later, she stands by the ocean, feeling the cool water touch her feet. The sun sets beautifully on the horizon, painting the sky with gold and orange. Amara closes her eyes and breathes deeply. For the first time in years, she feels free from judgment, from comparison, from pain. She finally understands that her worth never depended on anyone's opinion. It had always been inside her. She smiles softly and whispers to herself, "I am enough." Amara stands at her balcony one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in soft orange and gold. The air is quiet, calm, and full of peace. She holds a warm cup of tea in her hands and lets the gentle wind touch her face. For the first time in a long while, her heart feels light. No bitterness, no anger, just peace. She thinks about all that has happened, the pain, the humiliation, and how everything turned around in ways she never expected. As she watches the sun slowly sink beyond the rooftops, a memory of her late father comes to her mind. She can still hear his voice, gentle and wise. "Real power doesn't speak loudly, Amara. It simply acts." Those words echo in her heart, stronger now than ever. She smiles, not because she won or proved anyone wrong, but because she finally understands what true strength means. It's not about shouting or fighting back, it's about standing tall, even when no one claps for you. She looks up at the glowing sky, whispers softly, "You were right, Papa," and feels tears of peace fill her eyes. Her phone buzzes with new messages, people thanking her, praising her speech, and calling her an inspiration. She smiles, sets the phone aside, and continues watching the sunset. She doesn't need the world's approval anymore. As the last light fades, Amara closes her eyes and takes a deep breath. A small smile spreads across her face. "Never let anyone's opinion make you forget your value," she whispers to herself. Sometimes life humiliates you right before it applauds you. The evening grows darker, but Amara's heart glows brighter. She turns and walks back inside, ready for a new beginning, calm, confident, and free. Fade out. Busties. Two Hearts, thank you so much for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more amazing stories. See you next time. Bye. Waving Hand Sparkles.